Hello, and welcome. My name is Julia Abram, and you are listening to a podcast, 100 Estonian Vets. This podcast is usually in Estonian, but this time, because of our international guest, this podcast will be in English. Happy listening. Like I said, today's guest will speak English with us, but he is actually from Chile, and there is a very interesting reason why he came here to Estonia, a country that a lot of people don't really know, but thankfully he did, and he was very intrigued. Of course, we are talking about doctor who got an award last October of Estonian Veterinarian of the Year. I'm so pleased to introduce to you Felipe Corrėa. It looks like you have been, like you have some experiences with that, with podcasting.
Yeah, actually, for the past, I would say 2 weeks, I've been giving lectures to a course in Sri Lanka. I'm going on vacations in this Sunday to Sri Lanka for 3 weeks. And by the time I finish my vacation, I will give a course there. But before that, I've been giving an online lecture exactly on the same platform. So yeah, I know how it goes. And actually, I'm always having water with me because I get quite thirsty.
But you are going on a vacation to give a lecture. So when do you actually rest?
Yeah, so actually, no. First, I'm going on vacation. And at the time I finish my vacation, I will start giving lectures there. Basically, not actually lectures, just practicals at the university near Colombo. So yeah, just after the vacation.
I'm just wondering, how will our Estonian horse people even be okay with all of that? Because I feel like Estonia is so lucky to have you here that I'm not sure whether they even want to leave you or give you time for a vacation.
Well, so I basically said this specifically at this time because in January of last year was our lowest season, let's put it that way. I think it's gonna be the same now. It's like minus 20 degrees outside. So I'm expecting that we're not as busy as the middle of the year. So I think this was the best moment for me to take time off. Yeah, like of course, emergency we can never control about it. So luckily there is another clinic, but in Latvia. So if there's like an actual surgical emergency, they will have to go there. But luckily for the appointments, we're not as busy in January as we are like in September or October.
It's a dry season here. After the Christmas and all New Year's, people are kind of short on money, so they just everything that can wait will wait until Valentine.
Yeah.
You are coming from Chile, and I'm wondering, how are you coping with this minus 20 degrees?
For me, it's not a big issue, to be honest. Funny thing is, so I was born in Brazil, but I grew up in Chile. I have never felt so much cold in my life than in Chile.
How come?
Well, for instance, right now I'm in my apartment. It's controlled 25 or 24 degrees, so I can actually be in my t-shirt. In Chile, like as far as I remember, or at least in the places where I have lived or where I grew up, we don't have that. We just have like a small heaters in which actually just heating around yourself. Of course, if you get like a newer apartments, then you have like a control heating the entire apartment. But I don't recall have ever been in a place in Chile where you actually can set the temperature. So usually you have like to be wearing I not a jacket, but at least a light pullover or something like that. And I remember on my childhood, we used to go to a beach area where my family have some relatives, and it's as cold inside as it's outside. So when people ask me like, how can you get used to Estonia because it's -20 outside? But just imagine being in a place where it's like 0 degrees outside, but it's
And
also
it's
0 degrees inside. And I remember you have to be
I
wearing
can
like,
see your point now.
no, it's like it's freezing, like it's freezing cold, and you have to wear like 6 blankets, literally 6 blankets, and you
Mhm.
cannot move in bed. Like, that's actually cold.
Yeah, and
And
you know, it's like we as an Estonians do not even think of that like this because we are so used to heating, and it's like you don't have heating, go like Alfredo or something like you can't live without that. And you coming from another backstory, it's very interesting to appreciate things
yeah,
that we didn't know
exactly,
we needed to appreciate. But you
exactly.
already went a little bit into your childhood, and I really believe that people we are today become through our childhood happiness and traumas. So what is your context in childhood? What is the earliest context that made you today?
Are you talking about like being a veterinarian or something that I
In
remember?
general, we will come to veterinary medicine as well.
Well, I will say like the first memories that I have is actually from Africa. Um, as I was born in Brazil, I don't remember many things from Brazil, or I don't recall it because when I was 4 years old, we moved to Angola in Africa, and we lived 1.5 years. So I think my first memories were in Angola. And I remember in my childhood was quite particular in the sense that we were living all the Brazilian in a closed complex because we could not go outside. So it is something that you guys have here. For example, being in Tartu, that every time I walk to work, I see kids of 6 years old walking alone, like because it's so safe. In there, each family was living inside the house within a residential complex because you cannot be outside. As how dangerous is it? So I remember living in Angola, but surrounded only with Brazilians. And if you want to go out, you have to take a car and cross like a guarded police because it is extremely unsafe. This is something that I would say is my first memories as a child.
I
Yeah.
just wonder how that changes a person thinking of that kind of childhood and comparing it to Estonians, where it's, yeah, my kids
Well,
are also like around 7 and 9 and they run around quite freely.
Well, something that it makes me, but I think this is not particular for about me, but it's quite common among South Americans, I would say.
Mm.
Um, we are always thinking that this, like it could be dangerous wherever you go. Like I'm always like checking where my wallet is or where I put my stuff, even here because
Mm.
this is how I'm used to it. You're always like looking around because you never know, especially when it's dark.
Mm.
Uh, that's like my normality even today. This is something that is already like part of how I am because I'm used to being in a place where you should not be trusting too much in your surroundings.
Do you feel safe here?
Yeah, extremely safe. Extremely safe. You can just walk at any time, and even if I walk a bit later and you see some drunk people, they seem like super harmless, like just like bothering no one. It's just like being
If
drunk.
they are too drunk.
I know. I
Yeah.
think here it's extremely safe. Huh? Traffic, the people, everything. It's funny because some of my friends in here think that in general, Estonian drivers do not respect the traffic, but no, like in here, I would say like once every 100 will not stop in a cross. I would
Mm.
say in South
And they are
America.
probably from Tallinn.
Yeah, and in South America, it's the other way around. Like you will be very lucky if someone actually stop. You just have to just
Mm.
cross street or things like that.
But where did you get your love for traveling? Because as I understand, you traveled a lot in your childhood as well. And I understand that you do love to travel now as well. So
Yeah,
how
yeah.
come?
I blame my parents. My father was Brazilian, my mother Chilean. So by the time I was already 7 years old, I had already lived in 3 different countries and like 5 different houses. So I was kind of used to it. So I think this is also part of like it became impregnated from my childhood. And a good example is like, yeah, of course, I would say I mean a bit of an exception because I travel quite a lot. But my brother, who travels way less than me, still is way more than the average person. Already, my brother have lived in multiple countries because of work. He's already living in I think the 5th different city within the country in Chile. So I think it's already part of the way that we were raised.
Yeah, because I imagine for kids, usually you want to have like stability and stable home and stable friends and everything. And for you, it's more like figure out here, figure out there, and moved a lot around a lot. So I guess it's not as traumatic to children as parents may think to move around, and maybe they will just want to travel more.
Yeah, and what is interesting also, I have discussed this with my brother a lot. Many of our relatives and friends, they are quite attached, for example, to the house where they grew up. Well, not like the house where I grew up, like is being sold many years ago, and it's like I don't have attachment for that. My mother right now, she's living in a city where I grew up, but in a completely different place where I used to be. So I don't have this close attachment to a place or to things like houses. It's more like family, of course. If I ever gonna go back home, is basically to see my family or my friends. And a very good example I can give you is I haven't been in Chile since 2.5 years ago. And I'm not really looking forward to go there because 1 year ago, in the Christmas in 2022, my mother and my brother came to Estonia to visit me. So that already like prolonged the idea of me going back to Chile. And in a month and a half or 2 more months, we're gonna meet each other in most likely in Spain. So that will already prolong more the time of like, okay, I don't really have to go back to Chile. Especially because my friends also, with whom I also have like a contact there, I would say every 3 to 6 months through WhatsApp or things like that. But they are all married with kids, so they are in a completely different symphony. So it's not easy to see them because they are actually quite busy with other stuff.
Yeah, and with kids, like if they get sick, it's usually because you have something important to do. So they are always sick when you have to go somewhere or you have some non-refundable trip coming up. Well, anyway, how did you get into veterinary medicine? I understand you have family who are more or less into horses.
So my family, especially from my mother's side, owns a farm. It's not really large, and we have horses as a family, but nothing fancy. Just like a quite I don't even know for what, and they're just there and eating grass. I don't even know what they do with the horses. So I kind of grew up surrounded by horses, but don't even ask me to like put a saddle or to ride a horse because I have no idea. I think I used to ride a horse when I was like 6 or 7 years old. We used to, as a kid, in my family, they just put you on top of a horse when you are like 2 years old. But I remember the day in which actually I fall from a horse and I never wanted to ride it again. So
Childhood trauma. Now we have it.
yeah, it was never on my mind to study veterinary medicine until the 6 months before getting to university. Um, I was somehow related to biology, like or something like that, and I had no idea what to study. And someone said, Felipe, maybe try. Well, my parents wanted to be a human doctor. Then my father said like dentistry, and said, "Oh, no, I don't see that to myself, and I think was a teacher or an uncle, I don't remember. He said, why you do try veterinary medicine? And I had the concept of veterinary medicine of a small animal clinician. So I went to volunteer at the small animal clinic for 1 week. This was on the last month of high school. I was like, I'm not even convinced. I was like, okay, this seems okay. Seems okay, something to do. So I got enrolled into vet school a couple of months later. But I would say, my first 2 years of veterinary medicine, not even sure why I was there. I was just like, okay, I'm already here. I'm gonna continue to do what I'm doing. And I will say I found the area where I really like was by my third year. I had a lecture and a lot of practical on small animal surgery. I really enjoyed it. And by the time I finished the course and I went to a small animal clinic to assist a surgeon, I didn't like very much the vibe in a small animal clinic, in the sense that it's a really narrow and smelly, and like I didn't really like it very much. And someone told me to visit a horse hospital, and this is something I really like it. And by the time I was already in fourth year, I just focused my career in horses.
Oh, interesting, because many of people who have come here on this podcast, they have said that they wanted to be a large animal doctor, like large animal horses, cows. And then they're like, go through different studies, and then they find that one teacher who just kind of baffles their mind, and they're like, oh, yes, I have to do it now. And it sounds like for you as well, there was a teacher who kind of showed you the ropes, and you just fell in love with horse medicine. Is it so? Or
No,
was it more
would
like
say-
the
yeah,
surgery
no, I
part?
would say it was more the surgery part who actually put me that way. But I could say that I wasn't clear already being in the or thinking on the equine field. But on my last year of vet school, I did spend as an extra just doing some volunteer work at the military police equine area, which is actually quite important in Chile. Following a vet there, his name is Cristian Landero, and he was the one who actually told me, Felipe, if you want to progress, do not stay in here. Otherwise, you're going to be another vet among 1,000, because there's actually a lot in Chile. And he was the one who told me, go to North America. I think that was like quite a important step in my life, because he was the one who actually made me pursue to go somewhere else. And from there, it was actually fairly or like easier in a sense, like to follow a direction.
Do you have any other people who have given you some kind of good advice, or just said something that kind of changed your life?
My PhD advisor, yeah, for sure. And what is interesting is I did a PhD with something completely unrelated with horses. It was related to cattle, actually. And I started the PhD because I was not able to get enrolled into a residency in a specialization in horse surgery. So I got enrolled in a PhD, and I was already doing the PhD. I didn't have a topic. And when I met him, his name is Rodolfo, he had a huge project with the Echinococcus granulosus in cattle. Yeah, but basically in the immunology part. It was a huge project, like massive project. He was the one who actually enrolled me into like a how to do research, how to organize lectures and things like that. I didn't learn anything related to horses with him, of course, because he's not a horse veterinarian. But I learned a lot about organizing and making a plan on the teaching part and the research. So with him, I get a really close contact. I would say like we talk to each other every 2 to 3 months, and he always give me very nice advice.
I do hope that you will teach that to our students here in Estonia, because planning is something that usually universities do not teach. You kind of have to figure it out yourself, but it is highly, highly needed skill in veterinary medicine. Do you agree?
Yeah, I totally agree. But I think this is something that you have to come more from the student, more than something that you have to just teach. The student is the one who have to look for a mentor, let's put it that way, and then once you have it, that person can give you more guidance. Because I don't think this is something that you can actually organize a course on planification in our
Oh,
field.
yeah.
That is actually possible. It's more like an individual communication. Let's put it that way.
You chose horses, and horses are so much more, well, cattle is more forgiving. So you chose the hard road. Why?
I think this is highly related to my family. We have so many horses that I'm feeling super comfortable around horses. Although I was never riding after I was 7 years old, so I feel comfortable around them. But with cattle, I have no idea about cattle. Like, so no, it's not my thing. It's not like something that I could feel comfortable with. I did like when I was an intern, I did 3 internships, and one of them in the University of Guelph in Canada, and that internship was actually a large animal internship. So I had to deal with cattle, but everyone already knew that my main interest is with surgery. It was not a big deal because I was always asked to be involved with the surgeries around cattle, but not the management. Let's put it that way. So if someone have to ask me how to obtain a blood sample from the coccygeal vein in the cattle, like I will struggle a lot. But
You
a
will
wound is
Google it.
a wound is a wound, and a fracture is a fracture in any species. So everything related with the surgery in cattle, it is quite familiar for me. It's just the management. And I can tell you, when I was a resident in South Africa, um, I used to accept a lot of surgical cases from production animal because they never wanted to do any surgery. And one time, they admit a pot-belly pig with an hernia, and they didn't know exactly how to operate them. And they asked the Econ Clinic if we can do it, and I always raise my hand. Yeah, of course, I will be willing to do it. But as soon as I do the surgery, I have no idea what to do with it. Like, so I told them, you have to manage the hospitalization and the feeding and all the stuff because I have no idea what to do. So I think surgery is surgery, independent of the species. Although I have never done it with dogs. So.
And I imagine this is why in all the horror movies where every human doctor is there, they always go to the veterinarian, like, because veterinarians know how to treat or do a surgery on any type of people. Isn't it so? Like, have you seen scary movies? There's always a vet.
I think today I will try to avoid it. I think we are aiming to be more specialized, but as a last resource, I think if you're in the middle of nowhere and you're the vet, well, you have to deal with any species. When I was in South Africa, of course, my residency was related to a hospital, but once in a while, I have to go outside to see some basically lameness. And every time I was leaving a barn, I had to see, or I didn't have to, but I was asked to see any random animal. And I remember leaving one of the barn, and I could see one owner at the door, and I was like, this person's waiting for me, and he was holding a chicken. And oh, no, and it had a huge abscess. At least it's something that I could manage. It had a huge abscess, so I was like, yeah, well, yeah, let's deal
But
with this.
don't you just want to say, like, make a soup out of it?
But the problem is, many of these people have tried to reach so many veterinarians, and this is the type of answer that they get. Like someone said, like, "Ah, what's just kill it," and they really wanted to try. So, like, well, I think they're just looking for someone who is actually willing to try. Um, so I think part of our job, like independent of in which species are you working, is actually give an option to the people, because many of them are not seeing the animals as a
Yeah, they are more like
a
pets.
money asset. Is they're actually a pet. Like, so you have to try, listen.
Do you have a story to share about like most odd case when the client like this came with a weird animal and asked you to do something, or was the chicken the most interesting one?
No, weird animals. I have seen everything. Huh? I used to work in Egypt too, so I got to see a lot of donkeys there. But I can tell you that when I was in South Africa, something I remember a lot was a donkey that came with a fracture, and the owner make a huge deal about it. So the donkey arrived with a fracture. My supervisor did not want to do the surgery. I told her, like, oh, look, we should try. I have no idea how to do it. Like, we have to try it. We have to give it an option. So um, we did the surgery, and the owner made a huge deal, like, is super thankful. She posts pictures, videos, everything, everywhere. And I remember after 2 months in the clinic, something like that, by the time that we discharged the donkey, she contact, because one of the things that I told, and this is when we have to realize the type of information that we share to the owner. And one of the things I told her is like, look, the only thing you have to be aware is by the time you take the donkey back home, make sure that you drive slowly and careful when you brake, because this could actually put pressure on the plate where the fracture is. And I just said this like something like, just be careful, just don't rush, don't drive too fast. It happened that they had to drive for 1 hour. So she went to contact the police to close the roads for them not to stop on the red lights. I was like, look, this was a bit too much. You didn't have to do this. Just meant to drive slow.
Wow.
You have to like actually close the road. But well, she did
But
that.
again, it proves how much people care about their animals, because like for a donkey to call the police to close the roads, it's
Yeah.
quite extreme, but again, it's very hopeful. Like there
Yeah.
are really good people in the world.
And then they own a rescue farm in which they also have a wildlife, and they keep unfortunately I never went because I was super busy at work, and they were inviting me every 2 months. They were asking me to visit the farm. I did one once, but just to check the donkey.
And the
uh
chicken.
yeah, the chicken was in a different place, but they have like a many donkeys in that place, rescue donkeys, but they also have some other type of wildlife. But these people I remember a lot, because they were like super intense on like they were every time they visit us, they were bringing us a lot of gifts, a lot of food, a lot of things. So yeah, they were very thankful.
It was a great story. Do you have any sad stories that made you cry?
Well, I'm not say I don't know if this is luckily, but like somehow I have been trained in quite tough circumstances, especially on my first 2 years of internship. Um, the caseload was so high. It was so high that I got to see extremely successful cases and also like a very unsuccessful one. So, and this is kind of unfortunately, in a sense that you got to see a lot of bad things, a lot of things that went wrong. Um, and this is the type of things that no one shares. Like no one shares pictures of the things that go wrong, and many people think that okay, now nothing's gonna go wrong. Yeah, well, many things go wrong, many complications. I do recall on my, I think it was the second or third internship, a very unlucky people, in a sense that people who have never had a horse, And one day they just woke up and said, you know what, we have a farm, we would like to buy a horse. It seemed like they have never read anything about it. 1 week later, the horse is colicky. They had no idea what is this. They are in the clinic, and we have to explain them that we need to do surgery, otherwise the horse is gonna die. So how can you explain? Luckily, the horse made it, but how do you explain this to someone who? I don't know if this is a not a responsible thing to do, but they just buy a horse. No one it doesn't come with a manual saying like, well, can go wrong. This can happen.
Again, like at least go with the cattle. They are more forgiving, you know. If you
And these are the type of things that some people do not realize. But yeah, like bad things happen. We try to minimize them. But as long as we explain them like this is what can happen, I think it's okay. But in this particular case, they just bought a horse without even knowing what could happen. And yeah.
But if something does go wrong in your patients, how do you cope with the guilt and the feelings that come around that? A little break. For you who are new here, you will have a treat. You'll have the opportunity to listen how Estonian language sounds like. And a lot of people say that it sounds like a song, but it is for you to decide. Kõigepealt tahtsin tänada kõiki teid, kes te olete mind selles saates toetanud, sest et just tänu teile kahele, kes te olete päriselt ka finantsiliselt toetanud seda podcasti, on mul olemas nüüd uus kaamera, mis aastavahetusel surma sai, ja uus mikrofon. Loodame, et see heli on mõnevõrra parem. Loomulikult olen väga tänulikud kõikidele teile, kes te seda saadet jälgite, kes te kommenteerite, annate mulle tagasisidet ja pakute välja ka uusi loomaarste, keda siia kutsuda. Ja nagu te võib-olla ka paar osa tagasi nägite, siis tuleb välja, et ma ei suuda piirduda vaid loomaarstidega, vaid ma tahan intervjueerida ka teisi inimesi, kes on veterinaarmeditsiiniga tihedalt seotud ja kes on andnud siia jäägitult olulise panuse. Nii et igasugused ettepanekud ja vihjed on vägagi teretulnud. Aga nüüd back to the show.
It is extremely frustrating because you try to understand like if I did something wrong or what could have been done differently, or especially when something is so uncommon, like it's like, how did this happen? Like, yeah, so it's very frustrating. I'm trying to remember something that was super shocking for me. I did my master thesis taking bone marrow from the sternum. So you basically put a huge needle in the sternum, you take a bone marrow sample, you process, and then you can re-inject it in your tissue. I think I did this more than 150, 180 times. First for research, and then as I learned the technique, I did it many times for clients. And there was one time you are already too confident or who knows, whatever. I did it in a patient. I took the sample, I removed the needle, and 15 seconds later, the horse collapsed. Just collapsed and died. And well, for sure, what happened is I penetrate the sternum, and most likely I have punctured the heart, which is something that can happen, but it's really rare. After that, I think after like 3 or 4 years, I never took a sample of bone marrow. So although it's something like super rare to happen, after it happened, I don't want to do that again. Like you feel like, no, I'm gonna quit, and that's enough. I shouldn't be doing this. So there's a bit of a time in which like you don't want to do it again. That's for sure.
Yeah, there is quite amount of fear that you have to overcome to do something that you kind of failed or was some kind of misfortune. But did you do an autopsy on that horse or not?
I did it, and this was the most frustrating. Well, unfortunately, I'm not a pathologist. I could not find a puncture on the other side. But I cannot explain it any other way. If it's not that, I don't know what could have been. But this most likely was a puncture on the heart. So.
And it's something that will torture you until the end of life, you know.
Yeah,
because
so
like
it is described to happen like as a very rare complication of bone marrow aspiration. that it can happen, but it's very rare. Yeah.
Yeah, for some reason, it made me think about all the parallels of all the other diseases that we're trying to treat. Like we try to treat them, and like 99 times from 100, it's successful. But sometimes something goes wrong, not because of you, but because of whatever. I don't know, moon was in the wrong place or in the wrong house, whatever. And today, with the vaccinations and with some kind of drugs, people who get those complications, those 1 people from 100, they, thanks to social media, they push it all so big that a lot of people start to be scared of vaccinations or the surgeries. And this is, again, like you said, it's extremely rare, but sometimes it happens, and it is unfortunate. But it doesn't mean that we should never do that.
Yeah, I remember so something that just happened, like we had a complication with a horse of something that I have never seen during the anesthetic recovery, but happened that I have never seen it, but to the client, the 1 year before or 1.5 year ago, it happened something similar. So for their experience, is something that, well, look, like
usual.
like something that is usual, and it's like, no, like I haven't seen something like this.
What was it?
No, it's just like a post anesthetic neuropathy. Horse cannot like stand up after the recovery. So something that is well, it's described as something can happen, but it's very uncommon. So then you are super frustrated because there's not too much you can do. And for the owner, well, it seems like it's a common thing. So yeah, like how can you explain something like that?
In your practice, do you feel like horses understand that you are trying to help them? Because I remember when I was a child, I kind of tried to help animals, and I always felt like they should understand that I'm trying to help them, but they never did. And my little pony always like
I have
bit me, and I was like, ah.
I have
So
been
we solved
kicked
it.
once in my life by a horse.
You're a
And
lucky bastard.
it was on my first internship. So my first internship, it was a horse with a broken leg, and he actually kicked me with the broken leg. I was like how, like I was actually changing the bandage of a horse that cannot put weight on the leg, and he actually kicked me on my leg like really hard. It's like seriously, like I'm actually trying to make a huge effort to immobilize the fracture, and he actually kicked me with a fractured leg. And it's like, no, I
Ungrateful asshole.
yeah.
But how did you? What on earth made you come to Estonia?
As to what you said at the beginning, I love traveling. I love new experience, and uh, many people, when they ask me like, how did you? Many people think that actually I decide to come to Estonia and then look for a job, and no, it's the other way around. Like, while I was doing my residency, which is a fixed term contract for 3 years, already by my second year, I was just checking what I'm going to do by the time I finish. And I was scrolling down a specialized website for equine surgeons, and I found the usual a job in Germany, France, the UK, and it's the same again and again. They're all the same until I saw one in a head of the equine clinic in Estonia. I was like, okay, well, this is not something you will see every day, because it's always
Googled?
countries.
Did
It's
you
always
Googled where Estonia is?
no. I am
You
actually
knew.
I've been always good at geography.
Great.
So I
Thank
know
you for that.
yeah, no. I always knew exactly where Estonia was. Um, so just scrolling down, I found it super interesting, and I applied right away. I didn't even doubt it. I applied right away, and I got quite a quick response. So I think everything went quite smoothly. Um, I don't think many people will apply because they always have concern, like, well, first of all, where is it? How are things there? I didn't even thought too much about that. For me, the experience to go to a place that for me is exotic because it's like actually quite far, actually is really appealing.
You did get an extremely high award in Estonia. You got the award of the Veterinarian of the Year, and it was last year, but you know, it's like it was like yesterday. So how does this award make you feel?
Well, I'm super thankful. I'm really happy about this. I, first, I didn't knew that the award existed. I wasn't expecting it at all. It was a huge surprise, and I feel super honored. I can tell you that by the time the Congress was happening, I knew that the Congress was happening the day after or 2 days after, and I was presenting, and I had to do a lot of things by the time the party was, because it was I think the ceremony was in the same day of the party, and I didn't have time to go there because I was actually quite busy at work too. I left work at 7 or 8 p.m. that day, and I think the party was at 8.
7.
So 7. Well, there you go. I arrived at home. I was exhausted, and I got a message from a former colleague from the small animal clinic, and she said, "Felipe, where are you?" I was like, "Well, I'm at home. Like I'm super tired." And she said, "Well, you have to come here." Well, she just said you have to come. Like no, like I don't feel like I'm super tired. I don't feel like partying. That was like my. I didn't know that it was a ceremony. And she told me, "Look, you got the prize." She didn't tell me exactly what was it. And I said, like, "Look, like, thank you, but like I don't feel like." And then I would say 5 minutes later, minutes later, Maris texts me, and he literally said, "Felipe, come here. It's an order." And he just closed the message. I couldn't even reply to him. Okay, I get the idea. So this is
Do you like being ordered around like this?
no, I don't. But like I really like Maris. Like every time I encounter him in the breezeway, I can see how passionate is he about his job. The last time I encountered him in the breezeway, I was like super busy, and I just ran into him and we started talking. And I think he talked to me about like how he tracked one of his birds, and he can trace them very far. You know, the kind of like like a super passionate person. So I didn't took it as an order. It's like, okay, if Maddie says I am gonna go there, so I went there.
Yeah, Madis does speak very highly of you. So you kind of have found each other in that department.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was, I remember the decision making, and when your name came around, it was, no one had any doubt about, of course, you, because the amount of work that has been put into a horse clinic in Estonia, and it's basically like raise like a phoenix, or rise like a phoenix from the ashes, and it started to work, and we have patients again, and it's a really huge deal for us. So we're really grateful to you for helping us. And as I
Yeah, thank
understand,
you.
you are quite passionate about students as well, and giving them the good knowledge. So tell me a little bit about that.
Well, I love teaching, huh? And I have no idea where does this came from. But since I have memory from my veterinary career, since I started to be an intern, I was always involved in teaching. Always. Uh, I remember my first boss. Um, he had this concept of, which is something I try to apply all the time. He said it to this way to us. He said, "Look, if you are in a room and you are completely proficient in what you are planning to do, don't do it. You have to ask who is next on the level, and that person should be doing that." So the idea of what he told me, his name is Mark Desjardins. He's the owner of the clinic where I worked the first time. He always said, "Look, you have to, if you are in a group of people, you should make sure that as many people have contact with what you are going to do, but the most proficient person should be teaching the next one in the level." And this is how actually the the system of residencies and internship work like, which is like you always have to train someone else instead of like you doing everything and everyone just watching. And this is what I applied when I was an intern. This is how I was trained when I was an intern. And then when I did a master's, PhD, and especially during my residency. During my residency, it was somehow similar. When I started in South Africa, the clinic was quite dead. The caseload was quite low. And after 5 months of working there, the caseload increased a lot. Happened that they hired a surgeon, which is the person who I consider my surgery mentor, Juan Munoz. And with him, we got so busy, like me working as a resident, Juan working as a senior surgeon. And then one of my colleagues, who today she's a final year resident, but at the time she was an intern, Elsa Hollenbach, we used to have so many cases. And I remember that in South Africa, we were writing the case appointments in a board in the wall, and the surgery cases were completely full, and medicine cases were zero, like literally. And we were just making sure that to write more appointments and more appointments. And I remember that the system that they had at the university before us, they were just booking one case every other day or something like that. And Juan, he's a quite particular guy. I love him a lot. He trained me about many things, but he's not the organization person. Like he's a super skilled surgeon, but he will never be in charge of like the appointment. He was always like, guys, do whatever you want. Like I'm gonna show up tomorrow and we do whatever we have to do. So between Elsa and I, we're just booking and making sure we have like 3, 4, 5 appointments a day, many of them at the same time. So during that time, we were just dividing everything in a way that the residents who were doing things, we were teaching the interns, we were allowing the students to participate in everything. And this is when the system was working in a way that the student have to be a member of the team. It's not, I don't like students just watching there. No, you are part of the team.
Hovering over you, yeah?
No. You're part of the team and you have to do things that you have to do. So by the time I arrived here, this is what I've been trying to implement. Students have to be part of the clinic. The clinic have to be a teaching hospital, not a place where a veterinarian have to be doing something and you have someone observing how you do things. No. I like students to take care of horses. They are their own patient. They have to present the cases. So they are part of the team and not just listening of what you're doing. And this is how I got used to it. And hopefully we can have it fully implemented at some point, because I think this is the way that works. Yeah.
What is the feedback from the students so far?
So we don't have a large group of students, but I don't know if they are lying to me or what, but the feedback is excellent. I've been receiving a lot of excellent feedback about like how the clinic have changed. They are really happy about the student participation. Especially this last group, which is for the first time, we have a specific equine tract. So we have 3 students who are actually just at the equine clinic. I got them to do really specific tasks and they have their own responsibilities with patient. And they were quite happy about it. The 3 of them are actually going to their own different externships starting now, and hopefully they were well prepared for whatever is coming next. So what they are telling me, they are really happy about it. So let's see how
I
the second
can
group
confirm.
Yeah.
I can confirm because there was a story about you in our magazine. I hope you know that there was a story about you. And there is also a student feedback who is saying that Felipes' enthusiasm is firing up You know, it's very inspiring. So it's great that we have such a good teacher as you are, and I'm happy that there will be more students and more vets going into horse medicine because of you. So
Well,
that's
at the end, that's the idea, because I think one of the problems that they told me at the beginning is like, we don't have enough equine veterinarians. Well, I think the solution is fairly easy. Well, where do you make equine veterinarians? Well, at the university. So you just need, for me, it seems quite simple. You just need to put input on the students. You just promote a larger amount of students' interest on the equine field. Well, that's how you're gonna have equine veterinarians.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And I imagine you will not stay like in Estonia for the rest of your life. Probably, I'm really sad to acknowledge that. But what is one thing that you would want to leave here in Estonia that the Estonian veterinarians would understand how to work and how to inspire horse medicine?
For me, is the teaching part, and hopefully with the next group of, or at least the first group of students that they were trained, hopefully they will transmit the same to the next generation, which is like a open opportunities. I believe that everyone who is at any working place should go and see something different. For instance, we had a foreign veterinarian last year, Christos, and he was always asking me, Felipe, what should I do next? So I said, like, well, go and see something different. What happened that today he is an intern, or he's finishing his internship in Dublin vet school. Now we have another intern, Kasia. She's from Poland, and actually I'm trying to transmit the energy to her, for her to go somewhere else, and she's applying to other places. So ideally, how I see things is like, every veterinary student, as soon as they graduate, hopefully they could do an internship. So hopefully our students come to us, and the next step should go somewhere else, to hopefully one day they will come back here with new information.
Mm-hmm.
This is what I hope it will be more a common thing every year.
It looks like you're quite a high achiever and very successful at that. But with all the success, there is always a price that you have to pay for that. So what
Yeah.
is your price that you are paying?
Right? Well, because the amount of people who always tell, "Oh, Felipe, you're so lucky. You're so lucky that you're traveling. You're so..." Look, the amount of times in which I just leave a place, and I think the price that I'm paying is, I've been focusing so much in my career, and I will say, every time I have moved to a different country, I've been dating someone, and I actually break up the relationship just to get a different job or a different thing. So I think this is one, and then being far from the family. I think one of the most difficult situation I have ever experienced is the fact that my father, who died 4 years ago, died when I was actually working in Egypt. So this is the type of things, like you're far from the family, you're far from friends, and also every time I move, I have broken with a girlfriend, broke up with a girlfriend. So yeah,
Emotionally, not very, very good.
yeah, no.
But what is something that we can or have to do for you to stay in Estonia?
I don't think this is something it can be controlled. Like I will be lying to you if I tell you, like, yeah, I'm gonna stay forever, or if I have plans, because I don't know. Um, but for instance, this is the first time in my life that I have full-time contract. Like every
Mm-hmm.
time in other places is being a fixed term. So for instance, when I was working in Canada, it was year by year with an internship. I already knew that I was finishing, so I could potentially apply again to those places or leave, and I always decided to leave. When I was in South Africa, I had also a fixed term contract for 3 years, and I already knew by 2 years that I didn't want to stay for multiple reasons. But I, at least in here, I don't have a fixed term contract, so
Mm-hmm.
so far things continue as it is. Um, the clinic is moving towards the direction I would like it. I'm a bit for the people who don't know me really well, I would say impatient in a sense that I like to move forward and and same thing as you told me at the beginning. I'm usually on time, like I would say always on time. So I'm like super let's go
Punctual.
let's move forward and not
Mm.
like staying in the place or whatever. So the most critical for me will be that if at some point I don't see that we're not moving, it's like, okay, well, things are whatever, not like that's no, I can't. It's like I have to go forward.
Mm-hmm. So you do follow your heart, and in the sense that when you feel like the season in Estonia is finished, you will probably move on.
Yeah, I
But
would say.
not, but you do not have a fixed contract, so that's great. It might be like in 5 years, in 10 years, maybe there will be a girlfriend.
Yeah, well,
but
as long as things are moving forward, for me, it's fine. But if I compare one year to the other one, I was like, okay, we're doing the same thing again. It's like, no, for me, that doesn't work. And this is funny because I was talking about this with a friend, and she told me that she likes things as it is. She's from abroad, and she loves the continuity and things are
yes, everything
completely
like
the same. No, if I just think about how things in 1 year before and if it's the same, no, this is wrong. I have to be better, different, or I don't know.
for some reason, I really want to ask you a very specific question. And what is the best compliment you've gotten? The one that really went into your heart?
Well, I just got a text message. It was actually something really. I don't recall something. I received many compliments, to be honest, but I just got a really nice message. And she told me, Felipe, you are super cool. I'm really happy that I don't want to be very specific, but they told me I'm really happy that she's really happy about me allowing to push forward. So she told me, actually, Felipe, you are very cool. So yeah, actually, I really take it really nicely.
That's amazing. So, Felipe, I have a tradition here in this podcast where a last guest leaves a question for the next one without knowing to whom the question will be. So, are you ready for your question?
Okay, yeah, I'm ready.
So, and I'm translating here. Based on your best knowledge you gained during your veterinary studies, is a carrot a plant or a food?
I would say a plant. I don't know.
There is no correct answer, as this is kind of a question which was first, the egg or the chicken, because I know that in Estonian governmental level they are kind of arguing about that, whether the carrot is a plant or food, and everyone has their own answer about that.
Okay.
So, Felipe, thank you for your time. I really hope that you enjoyed this conversation as much as I did. And well, really thank you for all the things that you have done here for Estonian veterinary medicine in the horse medicine field.
No, thank you to you. I actually really enjoy it. I just hope that one day I will actually learn Estonian. I haven't tried, but because I've been super busy at work, but one day I will try. That's that will be my promise.
Yes, and I will remind you of your promise, because I'm really punctual with those things as well. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Take care of yourself.
With meeting and interviewing new people, you never really know where the conversation leads you. And with Felipe, although I know that he was very tired, he gave it all, and it was so much fun. We did chat a lot after the recording stopped as well, but sometimes maybe I will have this information in the bloopers. But I'm really happy that Felipe came to Estonia. He has made a big difference here, and I do hope that all of his teachings and the inspiration he is giving will ooze out of him and into our local Estonian and Erasmus students. So I really hope that if you are first comer here, you will join me when it's again in English or in Russian or in Estonian, and maybe you will learn some Estonian language. But to all the others and my regular listeners, until the next time. But what about Luis and Letelier?
So
what's the story with that?
Yeah, I know. It happened that South Americans or most of people who actually come from Portugal and Spain, we have two first names and two last names. So mine will be Luis Felipe, the given names or first names, and family name will be Corrêa Letelier. So Corrêa comes from my father's side and Letelier from my mother's side. We always get both. It's
very cool.
Yeah, that I don't use, for example, Luis Felipe. I don't like the name Luis, and I have never used it. I always introduce myself as Felipe, and the only person who called me Luis Felipe were my parents, but no one else does it. I don't like Luis. In Spain, most of the names have a meaning. Well, it happened that Felipe it means, among like many other things, friend of horses.